Hello, this is Vivica Williams, and you're watching UATV's Head to Head. LGBTQ rights in Ukraine have developed in the last few years, but still have a very long way to go. A good indicator of the level of public acceptance could be the Pride Parade. How easily can supporters of LGBTQ rights assemble in March? Ukraine has ranked fairly low according to this indicator until last year, when the Pride Parade was orderly, heavily protected, and well attended in Kyiv. Now, Ukraine's LGBTQ community is planning more activities for this year. So what specific actions can be taken to support LGBTQ individuals and Pride events? Today, we're talking with Ashley Fowler from Human Rights Campaign to find out more. Hello, thank you and welcome, Ashley.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what I want to ask you, last year, you were at the Baltic Pride 2016 in Lithuania. And
that is correct.
You taught a workshop there specifically with some ideas that could help supporters of the LGBTQ community. So what I want to ask you today, what advice and what support can you give for those who are interested in supporting the Pride Parade this year in Ukraine?
Of course, yes. So I think that there are really kind of three simple ways that straight allies or even members of the LGBTQ community themselves can be better allies to this community. And the first is really just making sure that you educate yourself on these issues and that you are aware of the laws that exist, of societal opinions, and that you're familiar with the language that should be used. And that leads me to the second point, which is try to be very mindful of the language that you're using. Make sure that it is as inclusive as possible, whether that's referring to someone's partner rather than their husband or their wife, or perhaps their spouse, asking if they're in a relationship rather than asking if they have a boyfriend or girlfriend. These simple indicators can really indicate that you are an ally of the community and can help a member of the LGBTQ community feel more comfortable and safe around you. And then the final way that I think folks can really support and engage with the community is to actually show up to events, to make sure that you're investing your time, your money, and your energy to these efforts. And whenever you actually have the opportunity to attend events or perhaps even the Pride events themselves, that can be very, very meaningful for the community, just to simply have that show of solidarity.
And it's a great point. Last year in Kyiv, we had a really good turnout. I think it was more than 2,000 people, specifically because there were a lot of supporters, as you said, straight supporters, and also police protection. So do you have any words of advice for planners for this year's Pride events, as well as people who'd like to participate?
Yes, I think that the most important word of advice is just that your voice and you showing up does matter. People recognize it, and it can really mean the difference to an LGBTQ youth who sees that there are thousands of people that support and protect them. And the same thing is very true here in the U.S., and the same was true in Lithuania. From 2013, when I was also in Vilnius, Lithuania for Baltic Pride, it was a very different atmosphere than the 2016 Pride. And I think that was in large part due to the allies that turned out to show their support and to show their solidarity.
So what changed between 2013 and 2016? Can you give me some examples of how things changed?
Yes, so I think this is another parallel to Ukraine, where I know at the Pride Parade last year, the Pride March last year, there was a very heavy police presence. And the same was true in 2013 in Vilnius, Lithuania. There were, in fact, more police there than actual marchers in the parade. And I think that, flash forward 3 years, and society has evolved so much that there was less need for those police protection, or for as much police protection. Obviously, there were still police there to protect and to make sure that marchers felt safe and supported, but we were not outnumbered. And we, in fact, had so many supporters that we outnumbered the police, which was so reassuring, again, for LGBTQ youth and for LGBTQ families all across Lithuania.
Okay, so that's a really big indicator, having fewer police than participants. What could you say about events other than the main Pride Parade? For example, the community here wishes to have a week of events, What type of events would you recommend, and also ways to be more inclusive as well as safe?
Yes, no, I think Pride is a great opportunity to expand beyond just a simple march. And so again, in Lithuania, they were able to actually organize, again, a week of events. And one of those was a human rights conference. And I was fortunate enough to be able to speak at that conference as well. And this was really just a gathering of folks to talk about movements in their country. And so we had folks from Australia, from Ireland, from the US, all talking about ways that they've been able to use innovative advocacy in their home countries and how that might apply to Lithuania. So that was very useful for the LGBTQ community themselves. But I think other important events were featured or focused around the arts. So they had an art exhibition for photographs of LGBTQ families, or they had film screenings that were happening at the same time. And so I think those are simple events that are easy for allies to engage in. And so they can attend this film and they can educate themselves on these issues through art.
Okay, so in essence, it's about being more inclusive, involving all sections of the community, as well as providing safe spaces and involving people from outside of the country as well to show this worldwide inclusiveness.
Yes, I think solidarity definitely goes far beyond the borders of our nation, and of all nations. So it's not just about the straight allies turning up within Ukraine, but it's also the LGBTQ community within Ukraine realizing that they have advocates and they have allies on the other side of the world, and that we're all really in this fight for justice and equality together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ashley, and thank you so much for your words of advice.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
So today we talked with Ashley Fowler from a Human Rights Campaign about supporting LGBTQ individuals. This is Vivica Williams. You've been watching UATV Head to Head.